Hello, good morning. You're watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde. We are back again on another edition of this program. And how was your weekend? I mean, mine was great. And the co-host of this program is Mr. Momodu Mboj. Mr. Mboj, how are you doing?
I'm all right. You said yours was great?
Yes.
Why? Why was it great?
Well, it was a great weekend.
Because?
I spent the weekend at home, although I was out on Saturday for some errands. Then get back home again, spend the time with the family. I mean, spending it with the family makes it a great weekend.
Good. But what gives you pleasure, Mr. Balde? What do you really enjoy doing? I wonder.
For money. That's a very interesting question, Mr. Imagine someone just ask you, what gives you pleasure?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's putting you on the spot.
Yes,
instantly.
That's exactly what I'm doing, Mr.
Well,
Balde.
business gives me pleasure.
Well, money.
Money gives me. I mean, when I talk about money, I talk about doing business. I talk about doing work and get paid. I mean, it gives me a great feeling.
All right.
Yes. And also participating in societal activities, my society as well. Maybe a cleaning exercise or maybe a CAFO thing.
So you're a community activist.
It gives me pleasure as well. So that is what it is. So I throw the question back to you.
Get your own question. don't pill for mine. Don't steal mine.
All right. So, Mr. Ka, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
How was your weekend?
It was okay.
Nice. Great weekend. It's good that we are healthy and alive to be on the program. Although
we want to be wealthy and wise as well.
And wealthy and wise, it goes together. I mean, it's important. That's the point. You have to be wealthy and wise. You understand? It goes together.
They all go together.
Why do you think they put those things together?
Three together.
Yes.
Because they're true.
Healthy, wealthy and wise.
Because they're true.
You have to be wise to spend your money.
For our well-being, self.
I saw this funny thing on social media the other day. The guy was apologizing to money, telling money, I'm sorry, when I was a kid, I used to sing, silver and gold, learning.
It's better than silver and gold.
So money, I'm really apologizing to you.
I am so sorry.
Silver and it was so hilarious. I'm like, I laughed my head off. I was like, that was really funny.
Exactly. I mean, we can recall school days. I mean, learning is better than silver and gold. Although at some point you will tend to wonder. I mean, what am I learning for? Why am I going to school?
That still stands. I think.
I think.
Yes, but I mean,
it depends.
Except and until if you are learning to be wealthy. But learning to be wealthy, if you're learning to be wealthy, you might likely not to be wealthy. Because education and wealth is a total different thing.
Well, I'm not sure about being wealthy, but I think you sort of earn your keep. You know what I mean? Just get the right sort of money, the right amount, so that you can, do things that you want to do at home, isn't it? That's essentially it. Yes, you do have some people who have the ambition to become wealthy, but you realize that most people are not like that. You know what I mean? So, yes, if you want to be wealthy, yes, do what you got to do. I think society needs wealthy people. We all know that. You know what I mean? But for most people, it's just about, earning your keep.
Getting by.
Getting by. You can provide food, education, health, stuff like that. That's really what you want to do, really, in the end. If you're lucky, you can afford to go on holidays once in a while. That sort of thing.
Exactly. I think education will help you manage yourself.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yes, it helps you.
It opens doors.
We're going
become
to a very school debate now.
A very
teacher and
efficient,
doctor,
very efficient
air and water. You remember those? I don't know whether
human beings. Yeah. So on the program, we'll take a look at the African code. From the code, and we'll be talking to Modu Musa Sisao, public relation officer of the Gambia Police Force on youth crime surge. I mean, recently we've seen incidents, or we've heard incidents of stabbing, and investigations are on. And the recent one, it's from Kombo Kerewan Senior Secondary School. And of course, we'll also be talking to Kumba Jame, Ministry of from the Ministry of
Higher Education. Mm-hmm.
And we'll be talking about the first national gender strategy. You know, and from there, then let's take a look at Trump. I mean, tariffs and their impact on Gambia. Mm-hmm. You know, to help us go through that, we'll be talking to Malik Jallo, an economist. He would be here with us on the program. But first, let's take a look at the African Code. And Mr. Momodou Mbodj, please help us go through it.
Yes. What have we here? Children want to change everything, but they cannot make the old cooking pot stand on 2 stones instead of 3.
They cannot be wiser than the wise.
No.
So it shows that, you know, with children, you know, the ambitions and everything, but there is always something that the wise that knows that you don't know, that you cannot accomplish without being that sage. So it's important that you want to do things, but you have to know how to do them. So the pot, as the expression goes, doesn't stand on 2 feet.
On 2 stones.
So
Never.
2
never,
stones. You
never.
always have that triangular setting, you know, that the elderly have figured out, and it's been working since ever.
Do you want to tell me the proverb is talking about experience? Experience is
inbuilt in it, I think. Or he's saying that as a young person, obviously you want to do a lot of things, but sometimes as you walk that line of trying to do things, you realize that, you know, there is a lot of impediments that you have to know how to go about it to achieve. And that is where experience, the elderly, come into the whole thing.
Well, that's it. You call it experience. Yes, it is. It is experience. But I see something slightly different in that. I think it is more of wisdom. Some things are really built on necessary principles. This is really a necessary principle that it must be a tripod, otherwise it will fall. So that continuity, you see, change doesn't mean that you throw away the bathwater and the baby, as it were. Some things are really durable. Some lessons are durable. So just for the sake of novelty, for the sake of change, I shouldn't jettison that. If I do, I will feel the sort of instability. Something will fall. My pot will fall over and I will lose all my day's work. That is it. And maybe that is what youth must learn from the past, isn't it? What is durable, really?
So let's try and fit this in our society today. I mean, the youth are always in a haste to make change. They are in a haste to succeed. They are in a haste to become wealthy, you know. And at some point, people will tell you there is no shortcut to success, you know. It's reminding me you have to follow the old tricks to be able to, achieve what you want.
Well, just understand, not necessarily follow the old tricks, as it were. Just understand what are durable principles. Putting it in our context today, some of these young people, when you talk to them, oh, this is a different generation, we are so different from you guys, we are Gen Z, and all of that. To me, I'm like, be careful, as it were, the change that you want. There are certain things that if you change them, well, you will feel the consequences. So you have to be very, very careful and know that life is a series of what? Continuities and discontinuities. Certain things we must stop, we must change them. But again, certain things are continue, as it were. Continuities and discontinuities. So this balance, how do you retain the balance? Maybe every generation asks itself that.
Exactly. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde, and co-hosting this program is Mr. Momodumbuch. It's Monday, the 6th of April, 2025. And we'll take a short break. And after the break...
Did I hear 6th of April?
Is it 6th or 7th, rather? I'm still enjoying my...
I was wondering...
I'm still enjoying my weekend.
What is this? Oh, yeah.
It's not 6th, it's the 7th. That's an oversight. I take that back. Yeah, so we'll be right back after the break.
QMoney is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new QMoney app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy QPower, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send QMoney, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sinu Kalpe. We innovate, others follow.
We are back. You're watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde. It's Monday, the 7th of April. All right, so we're back. Let's take a look at the Point newspaper. And, you know, on one of their headlines, the meeting between the president and the Muslim elders. I mean, good morning, Mr. President. You know, sometimes when you talk about religious activities, people tend to talk about it a lot, and not necessarily. I don't think it's important to be involved in a lot of religious discussions. I mean, the state also have rights to engage religious leaders, to preach peace, to maintain peace, I mean, at some point. So these are kind of stories that I don't normally like to discuss much, because the religion and the state goes together at some point.
Well, the state is about society, and societies can be religious, so obviously. This particular one, with the CBME, I think that's what they call the Committee of Banjul Muslim Elders, they've been meeting with the president. They've been doing, this is a tradition since Jawara's time, and all of that. I don't think there's much issue with that. What we heard, or what I saw, was that the president's address. See, what do you think about the tone? You know what I mean? So yes, people expressed some kind of they had certain questions regarding that, but that was it.
Exactly. So let's take a look at police confirm alleged suicides in CRR.
Well, what does Mr. Kyle think about
his point of view?
Yeah,
that has been exhausted. I don't have any opinion on that. They engage, you know, and give their views, and society is there to be managed by the state. They are part of the state, so that interaction is important.
That's what I was talking about.
And then
exactly, you know, exactly. So alleged suicides in CRR, New Yundum stabbing. The police confirm alleged suicide, yes, and you know, stabbing in the New Yundum. So the police is confirming this is true.
You're having the PR,
and PRO will be online.
We don't know the details.
Yes, we will engage him, and he will tell us. And we'll also like to ask the PRO, what about the previous investigations as far as these crimes are concerned? Because, I mean, the other day I was saying, okay, why not sometimes authorities come back to us and tell us this is what we, although it's our right as journalists to go and ask the question, how far have you gone? But it's important also to update the public as to an investigation.
Absolutely, to be more proactive, especially with some of these high-profile, you know, well-publicized sort of cases. Absolutely, and especially when they say that they're investigating. So after they've got their findings, it is important to be proactive and tell people this is ABC. We are prosecuting, or we're doing whatever, you know. Yeah.
So the government is to construct a state-of-the-art medical school worth, I mean, $46 million US. I mean, we've seen a lot of developments, Mr. Carr. The other day I went to Brikama. I was going to Farato you know, I saw a route next to the forest that that is constructed, and it leads to Jabang, you know, which makes flying the route very easy and you know, very quick to access your destination. So we can see how the whole country is connecting.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the emphasis on building roads, especially urban roads, is long overdue. And I think they're doing a tremendous amount of work. For those of us who used to, you know, traverse these roads with our vehicles, we can see the difference. I was just telling Mr. Boyd this morning, some of these back secondary roads, you know, they're connecting to ways, and it will take off a lot of traffic on the main road so that you can use the side roads. I think they are very important arteries in terms of transportation and movement. So that emphasis, I think, is good. Up to once that is achieved, I hope they transition into the other phase of development, which should be agriculture, agriculture, agriculture. And that would be the backbone to which it will carry and shoulder the development programs, because all these have to be paid for. And without the productive base, then it becomes a challenge, it becomes a burden. But they are very important and very essential and highly appreciated by the people in general.
Exactly. I mean, once there is a very good road connection, business will move. You know, gone were days where farmers complain a lot from accessing main towns, you know, in the rural area to sell their produce. So things are very easy now. And ex-foreign minister Emel Sidat Job dies.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, a very fine
Are you just hearing
gentleman.
that, Mr. Boyd?
Yeah.
You're just getting that?
He worked at UNESCO, I think, as one of the directors, and he was a very seasoned diplomat and very obstinate, very stubborn. That I met him a couple of times in London during the struggle when he, you know, protested against Yahya Jammeh when he expelled the British, I think, or some expulsion was done to which he didn't agree, and he resigned, you know, and then he became an activist. And we used to go around in London sometimes, going to places, you know, advocating against the Jammeh regime at the time. So I have some memories of him. I didn't know him before then, but I remember when he was part of the APRC government as a minister, up to the point when he resigned and then took a position.
Yeah. Exactly. So UDP, Rohim Malik Law is saying UDP must end petty talks to win 2026 election.
Well, maybe these there are internal contradictions that he is alluding to, which every party, if you want to really make a difference in terms of making an impression, first you have to get your act together, make their house. I think those are the concerns. I don't know why it's public, but I mean, these things are, you don't wash your dirty linen in public. They should just have all these discussions in camera and then trash it out. What do you think?
I'm curious, what's the petty talk about? You know, being a journalist, obviously. I wonder what's going on. What are the different factions, really? What are the fault lines, as it were? It will be interesting to know what's going on within UDP, because for a long time now you will hear some people saying that Dabo, who's going to succeed Dabo, the idea of succession, the elephant in the room, really, I think, within UDP. So it will be interesting to know what the fault lines are right now with whatever factions are there, what kind of dynamic is going on within the party. I'll be very curious to know.
And that we cannot know until and unless we dig into that. I mean,
well, I'm sure that
otherwise it will just be hearsay.
Evidence,
if you
clues,
read the story in detail,
they will seep through. They always do. You see, you can't. There's nowhere to hide, really, in politics.
So it's like there's a problem to be addressed on the sale of Gaddafi Mosque land. I mean, NAM writes to AG to investigate Gaddafi Mosque sale saga. I mean, I don't understand that.
So if there is an issue and a National Assembly member raise it, maybe they should get to the bottom of it, and then people now, it's in the public domain, there will be more curiosity to know if the investigations are concluded and what the outcome is.
So my only worry is the Gaddafi mosque. I mean, what leads to, if at all it is true, the story is true, what leads to these people getting to that stage of selling that plot of land?
That's the question this gentleman is asking. And
That's
we
it.
want to know.
So we'll be very careful about what do you mean if the story is true? He hasn't asserted anything, merely said that we should probe into it. So he doesn't know.
That's why I said if
what is true?
If the selling is true, if at all, I mean the land is already on sale.
Okay.
That's what I mean. They should investigate it, Mr. Boyd.
Because do you know for certain that the land shouldn't be for sale?
It shouldn't be for sale, as far as it's
the law is.
Yeah.
Do you know what the law is? Or are you merely relying on the fact that
I cannot get to the law.
So
I cannot tell you this is what the law says.
This is the problem.
I don't know what the law says about lands that has to do with mosque or selling
that
of
particular
mosque
land. You know what I mean? You know, any land, you've got ownership rights. There are all sorts of things, you know. So one must be very careful when we talk about this technical stuff. We are journalists.
It's a huge land and some portion. But anyway,
yeah. So let's leave it to the authorities. I mean, they will decide on that. I am pretty sure probably the Supreme Islamic Council might also say something on this as far as it's religious matter. Yeah, so we have the police PRO on the line. You know, we will be talking to him about the youth crime, the increase, I mean, of crime rates in the Gambia, although people talk about the crimes are becoming too much. I mean, I said the advent of technology, you'll see everything. Crimes have been happening since in the 40s, 50s, you know, forever. So I think people see everything nowadays. And we have the police PRO, ASP Modu Musa Sisao. Good morning, PRO. How are you?
Morning, Ibrahim. Morning. I'm okay. Thanks for having me.
How is everything going?
It's okay. Alhamdulillah.
Exactly. I mean, PRO would like you to take us through what have you gathered as far as these crimes are concerned. I mean, we've seen the increase of a lot of crimes in the Gambia. I mean, previously, crimes happened and the police have been investigating. And, you know, now it's still ongoing. What can you tell us about this?
Thank you, Ibrahim. I think I overheard you while in your background saying it has been happening since in the 40s and 50s. With the advent of technology, easy communication, in a snap of a second, what happened in Basse will reach Banjul. What happened in Basse will reach Banjul. And I think in one way or the other, that also influenced the fact that people will be seeing things happening at the same time, you know, simultaneously or concurrently. And people would now come to the position that there has been or there is an increase in crime. Yes, reported cases, alhamdulillah. And I think, you know, the fact that people are aware, the media and the police also are coming all out to also inform the public of reports received as per criminal activity that has taken place. In last 1 week, I guess it's about 4 cases. We have 2 where a man of 30 years who attempted to rape a young girl of 12, you know, was an old lady intercepted, and he actually fell on the old lady to beat him up almost to death, who was admitted and later died. And we are also aware of the one in Yundum, where we had 2 people reported to have been fighting, and one stabbed the other. And the cause of the fight, we don't know for now. Investigation is going into that. And we also received reports of alleged suicide, what we believe to be suicide based on what we see at the time in Same Puchonki. Someone was found hanging in a tree, and a similar one in Dobo in Sierra, Dobonkunda rather. You know, so if you look at this, if you look at all of the circumstances of this, because people are saying because of this, there are a lot of crime in the Gambia. Gambia is no more safe. Are we really safe? What are the police doing about what is the government? But realistically, let's look at this. based on what we already know. These are things that happen in our homes, in our closed door, between relations, between people who know each other, people who have, and the history goes beyond that. Even last year, you remember the one in Basse, where a boyfriend and a girlfriend went around the rice field or the Farokono, where, the lady was killed and was put in a bag, and left in the street. And also you remember the one in Brikama last year, Brikama Bar, where a husband and a wife, the wife stabbed the husband died. And also again in Combo, a brother and a sister stabbed the brother. So you look at all of these things are happening in our communities, in our households. I am with the opinion that I think people pointing fingers to the police, pointing fingers to the government, and I think people need to look inward now, all of us as a community, because these are happening in our communities. Mostly when these are happening, the police wouldn't be there. People who are committing suicide. Yes, people might write their reason for committing this or sending an audio. In the case of San Francisco, we also received information that there was a communique or an audio that was sent before the act, but the police is looking into this, to able to determine. That's one. But people who also fight in the streets, people are saying, okay, we used to have the coups issue here. There is no more coups now. Why are people fighting? Why are people resorting to weapons? So I think this is more of, for me, it's more of a communal concern. And yes, you can't exclude the government completely. You can also exclude the police completely, because at the end of the day, in one way or other, we will be implicated in this because we have a role to play. Yes, but my point is just to agree with you in the background when we are saying that there have been crime committed. These have been here, but the fact that of recent is easy access to information, and additionally, the police also is more than willing to share information, reported cases with the public to understand. But the essence of this information is for people to really know what is happening and how to prevent themselves from being a victim. People are telling me, calling me, sister, we are not safe. Am I safe? I said, okay, look at the circumstance. What happened? Will you put yourself in those circumstances to be? Will you fight with somebody to be stabbed? Will you go to commit suicide? Or what would happen that will lead you to commit suicide? So these are things that we have to be realistic about, not just because, okay, this happened to this country is not safe anymore, X, Y, and Z. And I think that is important to note.
So, I mean, there was another stabbing in Basse as well, and the other one in Kombo Kerawan Upper Basic School. We just want to know, what do you believe, contributes to the recent surge when it comes to stabbing and, other crimes?
No, I can't vividly, at this point, I cannot tell you in relation to all of this what really is behind this. I think this morning, when I came to office, I was telling my deputy that we need to go back from January to date. Let's look at this criminal cases related to stabbing and murder and review and get, because we've already informed the public this happened. But I think it's also important that we come back to the public and say, what is our findings? What are our findings? What is the position of the police as far as these cases are concerned? And I think it's important. A typical example is that people, especially these suicide cases, others would say, for the one in Dobonkunda, we had information, that, okay, the person has, we call it SL, a suspected lunatic, or it's a lunatic, But we need to substantiate this as far as investigation is concerned, whether it's a known, was it medically confirmed, is it taking a treatment. The same thing happened in the person who was to rape the 12-year-old in Wellinga. Also, the report came that, is an SL, a suspected lunatic, So all of this, but we are also aware of the fact that when murder occurs, people will always come with defenses because, madness or being mad is kind of one of a defense to that. So we are careful about all of those things. So I think your question is very relevant. It's important for us at the level of the police to be able to look and see whether we can kind of analyze whether there could be correlation to some of this that are happening, whether there are any other factors that might, whether it's drug, whether, maybe something. So you are quite right. At this point in time, I can't give you a definite answer to that, but hopefully we will be looking into that. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Mboch.
Mr. Sisao.
Yes, please.
Mr. Mboch, obviously we accept the points that with social media now, all of these incidents are amplified to such an extent that it might give the impression that crime rates are going up. But I think you touched on it earlier. Statistically, have you been doing your work to know, isn't it? Because you need that data on the basis of which operationally you act, isn't it? So statistically, give us a picture. It is important for us to know this, statistically what's going on, so that we wouldn't just fall for whatever social media is saying. They can inflate all sorts of things. So we need your data really to adjust our understanding of what's going on.
You're right. You're really right. As far as we are concerned, as far as we are concerned at the level of the police, yes, there are instances where we have number of crimes that are increasing and they fluctuate, but it doesn't represent the fact that there is an increase in crime in general. Like, but again, like you said, to be certain of that, we have to get to the statistics. So what I would do is, what I would also commit myself to is, let's say by next Monday, let me say this, that we will be able to come out and be able to share this statistics as far, so that we can be able to appropriately communicate and also tangibly. But, if not, the perception is that the police are it's just a hearsay, they can say anything, there's no proof to that. But we will look at, let's say, from January to now, what are the statistics as far as this is concerned. And also, we can be able to see whether we'll be able to compare this to last year, 2024. Then we'll be able to, yes, in terms of, let's say, the first five major crimes in the country from 2020, January to date. We will, to be honest, I'm also with the opinion that, yes, the reported cases of killing or murder related is in the increase. I am also with the opinion of that. But now, what is the cause of that? Is something that we really need to look into.
That's it. And just one more. There is a sort of a feeling that when we have these high-profile cases or these well-publicized cases, and the police will promise to investigate, but afterwards we never hear anything else. What's about a more proactive communication? Whatever your findings that you get from your investigation, you talk to people. That's how you build trust, isn't it? So one can be reassured that there are things being done, but we never know anything about the findings afterwards.
And just to add on that, before, one of the crimes committed, a few years ago, it's a young lady, a student from St. Peter's, who lives in Busumbala, by the name, is it Marimendi? If I can recall properly, was brutally murdered at her house. So we just want to know how far with those investigations were they established as to what leads to their murder. Yes.
Yes. So like I said, I will try to work on that till Monday. Like I said, I would want to come back either online or physically at the studio to look to get into that. But the other issue is that Mr. Mboy talked about. I think I totally agree with you. It's important. It's going to reinforce the trust that we began to build between us and the public. We are coming out and saying this is happening, and we say we are investigating. So it only makes sense that we come back and tell the public that we said this happened and we've investigated. This is our position. Yes, we have those cases equally are there, but there are other cases that we might not be able to do that, because you remember the cases, especially we investigated some audit reports. You remember the IEC case, you remember the port case and the drug law enforcement case, when they burned out that drug. So we are investigating all of these things. And when we have instruction to investigate this, when we investigate, we send the report to the AG chambers or the Solicitor General for advice. Then from there, they pick it up from there, because some of the cases that are capital in nature are not by the police. So what police can do, like we did in the other case, is that we also came out to say that we are instructed to investigate this, and we have investigated and we have submitted our report, to the government. So in essence, we do that. But for the cases like the murder and the others, I think it's important. It's really important that we get back to the public as to, and we will start doing that 2025. We promised to do that since last year at December. I think we were having a meeting where you were not meeting. in the same studio where you were and you asked these questions. And I can remember I told you that we'll be looking into that. And honestly, we are committed to that. So I'm working with my team. I just reminded that this morning so that we can go as far as January, but not just only January, but since January is priority right now, just so that we are able to get the statistics so far, criminally, especially in relation to murder. Yeah.
And also, do you still have time? I just wanted to add, from your anecdotal analysis, it appears there is a correlation between mental health issues as well as some of these crimes. Do you engage any psychiatrists and all this in your stations in order to be able to have, that contextual issue with regard to mental health issue and crime?
Yes, yes, certainly. For example, if it is alleged that this person is a suspect of lunatic, who confirms that is the medical doctor, the psychiatrist. So they have to be examined and determined, by a competent medically trained officer that this person actually has this, because it has implications in terms of the courts and all that. So the police would actually have to get all of that to be able to really, in the investigation, and be able to prevent this. And I mean, in this case, it's the state, because the crime is against the state, and the state is prosecuting the person. So the state is going to go at every length to be able to get all anything that is going to, if not, if the opposing side, the defendants are going to use that to defend that. So yes, this is happening in cases that it's required. But if it's just, there is no anything of that, and it did not come. As for this year, as far as I'm concerned, these are the two that I'm aware of. The one that happened at Wellingara, the rape, the alleged rape, and eventually alleged murder, and the one at Dobongkunda. There are that statement coming from other corners saying this is this. But for the level of the police, we go with our investigation the way it is until when we get to a level that we need to verify this information, then we will have to write to those departments or units of government or any stakeholder that can support our case in prosecuting.
Thank you. Thank you very much for talking to us on QTV this morning. PRO, we can see how the police is closing that empty gap between the media and the Gambia police force. I mean, we are always informed through the police PRO. So thank you very much for always willing, to talk to us.
We are grateful. We'll continue to do this, sir. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so the Gambia Police PRO there, ASP Sissaho, updating us on the recent surge of crimes in the Gambia. And, it's important for us to, take them back to their first investigations. To give us results as to what happened. If you investigate a crime, at the end of the time, you need to come back to the public, tell them this is what happened. It's not just crimes happen, then we talk about investigating these crimes, but without any result at the end of the time.
I think he addressed that, that proactive communications. I think he said they're really working on it. They'll improve, but it's absolutely important because they want to establish trust, isn't it, with the people. Really, it makes it easier for all sorts of things. You'll get all kinds of tip-offs, when they're confident that you will act on it and stuff like that. So they understand all of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Momodou Mbodj, and thank you very much, Mr. Ka, for talking to us and also reviewing some of these stories with us here on QTV this morning. And we'll take a short break. After the break, then the program is going to continue. We'll be right back.
Kiusel moy suñu boss. Kiusel moy suñu boss. Kiusel moy suñu boss. Soro go ebe dawa full network suda tili Kiusel ni lafta diamla wati jamala mune diata Kiusel most reliable network jumala keta wati Kiusel wo quality man nyon soda jam ona manke Kiusel hanibe wuloni farole kono walante be bakono jala fayola network ko se taria Kiusel suñu boss ñu fi njeka indi 3G ñu delu taxi 4G plus and now we bring you 5G 5G first and only 5G provider suñu boss itela follow adi doron nesa keno suñu boss Gambia bela nyon tawo fele Kiusel suñu boss ko fasunta buka busi Kiusel suñu boss itela molti milka kukutol nati Gambia Kiusel meta lori la kiliano yele imanyina amanda wala itela ka quality dila dadi ma itele silo wala wodol mume be kenoma Kiusel suñu boss QCell, Sunny Bus, QCell, Sunny Bus, QCell, Sunny Bus. Connection of a bambandi QCell, Sunny Bus, QCell most innovative QCell, Sunny Bus.
Kiwmoni arti webi nafitoragol no yawi te non kadi no moƴƴi kiwmoni a wawa wadde piiji ɗin fow kala ko wonɗa wattu kala a wawa e hendade mbuuɗi maɗin e o kiwmoni app keson a wawa e nattinde mbuuɗi ma ɗum yaltina soda crédit soda kiw paba soda ko falaɗa te non kadi wawa hen yoɓude himɓe e ko heewi ina wawi kadi nuldude kiwmoni yoɓa bilji maɗin te non kadi hendoɗa mbuuɗi ko yaasi nulda himɓe kadi mbuuɗi fi nafitoragol ɗum no weeɓi yahu ka play store ma ɗum ka app store fi wawa fuɗɗade fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi noddu kiwmoni customer care e 133 kiwmoni suñu kalpe minen udditi lawol ngol si woɓɓe jokki kiwmoni e muruntananne koteke anilañi mobile app sone yariŋo a lannayata ndu.
We are back. You're watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Obalde. From the newspaper review and a discussion with the Gambia Police PRO on the recent surge of crimes in the Gambia, it's important for us to table out our problems. And, you know, one thing I don't like, the things that happen on social media. Sometimes you will hear different comments coming from citizens of this country. Oh, what is happening to the Gambia? Oh, our Gambia, we don't understand anymore. So these are comments that are negative sometimes, you know. I believe when the situation is tense, people tend to have different mixed feelings. But, I mean, at the end of the time, how are we portraying our country to the international world? You see, Mr. Boyd, crimes are happening everywhere.
Yeah.
When you watch the US, the amount of stabbing and shooting that happen a day, I mean, it's hundreds.
And let's be careful here, though. Now what we have is sort of digital Babel. Remember the Tower of Babel? You have so many different voices. So obviously, some voices would be negative. Some voices would be counterproductive to what we want to do as a country. But again, you will have other voices that will be more positive. So it just depends on which one you want to focus on. Just ignore the negative ones. Don't give them any publicity. Then they will just die out a natural death. And give more publicity to the positive ones,
absolutely, yes. So now let's move on to the third segment of this program. And we have Kumba Jame from the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. And we'll be talking about the first national gender strategy. You know, it's very significant for us to engage you on this topic, gender strategy. Kumba, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me this
By the way,
morning.
you look beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. Teres, lowa sili. Man mane da farafet. All right, so let's take us through the main goals of this gender strategy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Balde. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and also to talk about the strategy that is being developed at the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. We are really excited about this strategy because it's the first time since the inception of the ministry in 2007 that an instrument like this is developed, targeting females in our institutions of tertiary and higher education. And the aim is to increase enrollment for the female gender enrollment and also increase their participation in the country.
How, but I wonder,
yes,
just quickly, what's the current picture? How do you see female representation in tertiary and higher education? What's the picture now? How do things look?
The picture is not gloomy. And when the study, a survey was conducted during the development of this strategy, and it was discovered that if you look at the global picture of institutions in tertiary and higher education, you might tend to believe that we have more female enrollments. But if you look at it closer, isolate the tertiary institutions and focus on the higher education institutions, you realize that we still have that, that looming need to increase female enrollment, especially in the STEM, that is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
So we have to talk about the implementation. I mean, how are we going to implement this to the tertiary institutions?
Implementation is that's a good question, because if you look at the Gambia, we have beautiful policies. In all our sectors, we have policies.
That's why I ask.
Yes, but it's always a problem of implementation. The consultant developed an implementation strategy and also a resource mobilization strategy, because in order to implement effectively, you need resources.
Absolutely.
And in the document, she has highlighted the need for private sector engagement. Government cannot do it alone. They are doing so much, but we understand the constraints there. So we like to involve the private sector. We like to engage with our international partners, our donor partners. For instance, in the development of this strategy, we have support from the World Bank through the government of the Gambia. We are ever so grateful to them, because this is the first time, as I said, this is happening. And also, before the development of this strategy, the Commonwealth of London also came on board, and they supported the audit of our higher education institutions to bring out the actual participation of females in our higher education institution. So, of course, implementation is very important in this. It is one thing to develop the policies and the strategies, but another to be able to implement them.
Yes, I mean, implementation and consistency goes together. You know, if you implement at the end of time, you know the project it's not going to continue. Absolutely. And we are not going to be consistent, then it becomes a white elephant at the end of the time, Mr. Mboj.
Yes, for me, I'm interested to know, I think the goal of this is to improve, as it were, female participation and the like. So what are you going to do that?
We are looking at students. If you look at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary, you have a lot of girls graduating, but the transition is the problem. So we would like to encourage the increased enrollment of females, those that come to our institutions of higher education. You have tertiary education, there is the TVET and other vocational and technical subjects. Girls are going there in numbers, but we want them to come to our universities, and not just in any program, but in STEM. So we like to form initiatives. Right now, we're thinking about one very good initiative to do that. That is catching the girls young while they are in grades 10, 11, and 12. We want to go to the basic secondary education, groom them from there, so that when they graduate, we'll ensure that they come into our universities. In that case, you will see that we'll provide mentoring. Mentoring is very important in this. And girls need to see role models, especially in STEM. They need to see the women who have succeeded in STEM and aspire to become them. So we are focusing on mentoring, we are focusing on tutoring, providing the necessary support that they need, so that we increase the enrollment of the females in our universities, especially in STEM fields.
Okay.
Okay, so just one more. So you reckon that some of the reasons why they're not going further, be it in higher education or tertiary education, is that perhaps we do not catch them early, hence your idea, the suggestion that you try to catch them early and all of that. Is that right from your studies?
Yes.
Does it show that that's some of the main reasons why they do not move further? What are some of the reasons that are retarding women, girls?
That is just one of the reasons. The consultant and her team did a great job. They visited all the regions, because it's a national strategy. And they spoke to the girls themselves, the parents, the teachers, the schools, the communities. And some of the issues that came out is access to funding. Access to funding. And of course, with girls, the issue of early marriage comes into play. A lot of the girls do not actually make it to our tertiary or higher education institutions because they are married off. And when you look into that, that's an area that I'm personally interested in because females, we are trying to develop strategies to, to encourage and to help females reach their full potential. But if you look at the homes, who are the people that encourage their girls to get married? Mostly is us, mothers. So these are the systemic issues that the strategy aims to target to make sure that these girls actually cross that bridge to come to higher education. So funding is one, early marriage, societal expectation, our norms, our cultural norms, religious, if you like, that, let me give you a scenario. In a family where you have 2 boys and 1 girl, and there's financial constraint, who do you think, Mr. Mboch, who do you think the family will prioritize to send to university, given the, the high cost of tuition? It's the boys, and then the girl at the end of the day would be married off. So these are the challenges and the barriers in regards to access to education, higher education in this country.
So
and
let's
elsewhere.
talk about how are we going to make sure the effectiveness of this strategy is monitored, and also evaluated.
The consultant again did a very good job. I must pause to thank Auntie Emily. She was a consultant for this. She and her team have also developed an M&E strategy, telling us how we can track, the number of girls that come, and over time. And chief among the strategy is data. To have the data that we need. We cannot just develop interventions blindly. We need to know, in actual terms, where are these girls coming from? Which regions, see some of these barriers more, and what type of girls, from what background, and from what high schools, for instance. So we need to prioritize data, not just any data, but aggregated data, so that we see exactly all these things coming out clearly.
Kumba, training and capacity building. I mean, we cannot strategize all these things without capacity and training.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so are we thinking on that line?
Yes, training not only for the students that are involved here, but even the lecturers at the universities. We need public sensitization. Families, as I said, some of these problems emanate from the homes. We need to develop the capacities, create awareness. For instance, the National Assembly members, they need to know, education providers, stakeholders across different sectors, all need to be sensitized as to the relevance and importance of this strategy.
So challenges and future plans, do you have any?
Of course, challenges, resource mobilization is on top of our list. How do we mobilize the required resources that can effectively implement this strategy? That is one challenge that we foresee. But as I said, we intend to include the private sector and have collaboration with institutions, our donor partners. So we are going to go all out to make sure that this strategy is a reality, because we cannot just sit and wait, fold our hands when we have issues at our tertiary and higher education sector.
So what is the ministry doing for this to be a sustainable strategy, a plan?
If you look at the instruments we have a resource mobilization strategy, as I said, and we have a monitoring and evaluation strategy. And so we are going to develop a roadmap on how to implement that. First year, second year, third year. And to add to that, we also are developing our gender policy, the gender policy for the tertiary and higher education sector. So that already we have aligned the two instruments because they need to speak to each other because they're all aimed at addressing the same challenge, the same problem in the sector.
Okay, Mr. Boyd.
Just finally, you see, you've given us this sort of catalogue of all kinds of difficult, knotty issues really to deal with, which makes me wonder, okay, right now in the short term, what is actionable? What is doable? What is achievable? I wonder. What actions, what do you think? What is actionable immediately? Given that we've got so many problems, really, but there must be something that we can do tangibly that people can point to and say, yes, that is an achievement. What is actionable right now?
What is actionable right now is we cannot mobilize all the resources we need. Of course. We have to speak to government to increase the allocation. That is for that is targeting gender strategy implementation. But as I said, give me a minute.
What you wati ise munafano ila kodola anin kiumani la nyim mobile app kuto ise kodo dundino ye kodo fintinde ise credit ko sanno ye kiu power sang ye fengol sang ndum fanan ise mol jono anin ku jamalu ise kiumani kino ye la bilol jo ndum fanan bantala banko se kodo kiyeno ise kodo fanan kino do kotenge pour que munafanyina a download sign Play Store anin App Store ni la taka kusere ngo sotoje kiumani customer care commandi 133 Kiumani suñu kalpe ntolle nga silo walang dole mol noma Kiumani delsina ak sen mobile app bu bes bi orna gawna te it mun nga ko jefande ko pour def ci lo buga fo mun dine watu bu ne mun nga jot sa halis ak Kiumani mobile app bu bes bi mun nga dugal halis gene halis jënd ci credit jënd ci Q power jënd lo buga ak yu bari mun nga ci yone Kiumani fay sa bill si jot halis bitim réew yónnee halis ci noo ko bëggee looy def yombana downloadal app bi léegi ca Play Store bu dul loolu App Store pour nga door pour am si lu leer koolal Kiumani customer care si 133 Kiumani suñu kalpe ñoo xaali yoon wi ñeneen toppa
Q-Money is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new Q-Money app...
We are back. I mean, we apologize for that. We're trying to sort out one or two things. So you can continue from...
Yes, as I was saying, that is a very interesting and yet important question. I mentioned before that the issue of data is critical. And not even with this, with implementation of this strategy. In this country, data is a problem. But you cannot pursue development blindly. You need to be sure that what you're doing is the right thing to target the right population. So data and resource mobilization is key for us in the implementation of this strategy.
All right, so thank you very much, Kumba Jame, for coming on this morning and talking to us about the first strategy, by the Ministry of Higher Education. And we will monitor, we'll take a look at the success and some of the achievements. And, don't hesitate to come over and share anything you want with our viewers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thanks so much for having us. We are kind of lucky at the ministry that we have a visionary leader, the minister and his team. They're doing everything possible because this is the first time that we're having something like this. And that's not possible without the support from the government as well. So I'd like to thank them and also the World Bank for making this dream a reality. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, so viewers, we'll take a short break. After the break, we'll be taking a look at the Trump tariffs. And we'll be talking to Malik Jallo, an economist. And, we'll delve into that later on the program. We'll be back.
Kiusel moy suñu boss. Kiusel moy suñu boss. Kiusel moy suñu boss. Soru Go, Ebeda full network, Suda Tili, QCell. Ni lafta Diamala Wati Jamala Mune Diata, QCell. Most reliable network, Dumala Geta Wati, QCell. Wo quality man yon soda jam, Panamanke QCell. Hanibe Wuloni Farola Kono Walante Bebakona Jala Fayola, network Ose Taria, QCell, Sunibus. Nyofinjaka in the 3G, New Delu Taxi 4G Plus, and now we bring you 5G. 5G. First and only 5G provider. Itella follow Adi Doron Nesa Keno. Gambia Bela Nyon Tower Fele QCell. Ko Fazunta Buka Busi QCell. Itella Moldi Milka Kukutol Nati Gambia. QCell made a lori la Kiliano Yele Imanina Amanda Wala Itella quality dealer Daddy Ma Itelle Silo Wala Wodol Mume Be Kenoma. QCell Sunibus. QCell Sunibus. QCell Sunibus. QCell Sunibus. One next one of a Bambandi QCell Sunibus. QCell most innovative QCell Sunibus.
Kiumoni arti webi na fitoragol no yawi te non kadi no moƴƴi kiumoni a wawa wadde piiji ɗin fow kala ko wonɗa wattu kala a wawa e hendade mbuuɗi maɗin e o kiumoni app keson a wawa e nattinde mbuuɗi ma ɗum yaltina soda crédit soda kiw paɓa soda ko falaɗa te non kadi wawa hen yoɓude himɓe e ko heewi ina wawi kadi nuldude kiumoni yoɓa bilji maɗin te non kadi hendoɗa mbuuɗi ko yaasi nulda himɓe kadi mbuuɗi fi nafitoragol ɗum no weeɓi yahu ka play store ma ɗum ka app store fi wawa fuɗɗade fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi noddu kiwmoni customer care e 133 kiwmoni suñu kalpe minen udditi lawol ngol si woɓɓe jokki kiwmoni e muruntananne kote.
We are back. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Obalde. Now we're heading to the last segment of this program. And let's take a look at trade tensions, Trump, tariffs, and their impacts on Gambia. We are not only going to talk about Gambia, but I believe many countries are also affected. I mean, I've seen a lot of reports whereby some of the tariffs are affecting a lot of countries, and they're talking about it on television news. So to help us go through this, we'll be talking to an economist by the name Malik Jallo. I am so proud to talk to Malik and calling him an economist, and Malik is a Gambian and a Gambian brother who will help us go through this. Malik, you are most welcome on this program. QTV is your platform, so no need to welcome you.
Thank you for having me once again. Like you said, this is my place, so I'm always happy to be here.
Yes, so it made a lot of noise and headline news, Trump coming again, you know, making a lot of, sending a lot of messages on social media that, you know, the tariffs will change, you know, and it creates a lot of tension. So let's talk about the general impact of these tariffs.
Thank you. Before we look at the impact, I would suggest we try to understand the definition.
The concept.
What is tariff? Because a lot of people don't understand it.
The tariffs.
Yeah, what is tariff? And we give a little bit of background, as in where Trump is coming from with this. So a tariff essentially is a tax on goods imported from another country.
Okay, into the U.S.
Yes, into the U.S. So if the United States buy a car, or if a car seller in the United States buys a car from China, and he pays the shipping, the cost and everything until it gets to the ports of the U.S., for him to clear that car, he has to pay the tariffs. So it's a tax on goods that are imported to the U.S. That is what a tariff is. So where is this coming from? So since the 1900s, there's been a phenomenon of what we call globalization. So in 1945, after the Second World War, Europe was in turmoil, you know, and a lot of countries got destroyed. So a meeting was held at Bretton Woods in the United States, New Hampshire, where the United States and the UK leading the team and their allies came together in order to design a global economic architecture and financial system on the foundations that with prosperity shared across the world, there will be more peace, or there will be lasting peace, and there will be overall reduction in poverty. So this resulted to the establishment of two institutions called the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. So the World Bank's intention at the time of inception was to help rebuild Europe from the ruins of the war. And the International Monetary Fund was to provide exchange stability to countries, because it was on the premise that there's going to be encouragement between countries, so that countries can trade amongst themselves, so that people can have access to goods and services that they are not even able to produce. So with that, there is need to have an institution that will support countries in times of emergency when it comes to financial stability. And this structure or this arrangement gave the United States dollar the prominence that it has today, because US was the only economy that was in full shape after the Second World War. So for the global economy to be able to trade, they need to have a currency that facilitates that trade. And the US dollar was pegged to the gold, and all other currencies convertible to the United States dollar, so that if you have any emergency in terms of liquidity, you can consult the IMF. They will provide SDRs, and then you convert it. So this is the whole. So over the years, there has been that liberalization. Countries today, you and I are wearing clothes and shoes that Gambia is not producing, and we are able to afford it because, you know, there's no much trade barriers to bring those goods here. You understand? So that improves a lot of lives across the world. But over the years, what happened is, the more the United States, for the countries to be able to have the dollars to make the imports that they are doing, they need US dollars. And for that to happen, US has to buy more goods from other countries than they are selling. Because if the US buy more goods from other countries, it means other countries are getting more dollars. So those dollars, that is what other countries are also going to use to buy from other countries other goods and services that the US is not producing, or that is cheaper than the US is offering. I'm not sure whether you're following this. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is, for Gambia to have more dollars, Gambia has to sell things
to the US.
To the US and other countries that will give Gambia dollars. So because the US is global currency, everybody has a reserve of it. But for the world itself to have it all over, to be accessible, the US has to be buying more goods from other countries, so that everybody can have a little bit of dollars and do other purchases. Now, this is what they call deficit. So the US over the years has been buying more from other countries than it is selling to other countries. So which means...
So now he wants to reverse that.
Now he wants to reverse that, because not only does he believe that it is based on trade and comparative advantage and other things that support it, but he believes that there are countries that are purposefully, you know, manipulating the trade regime or system to gain an edge over the years in the trade balance. So trade balance is essentially or effectively your imports, your exports minus your import. What you sell minus what you buy. So if what you sell is more than what you buy, you have a surplus. But if what you sell is less than what you buy, you have a deficit.
So Malik, let's
would it work?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. Economically, there are two types of policies. There are short-term intervention policies, and there are long-term structural policies. So this is a long-term structural issue, because what happens is, as the world opened up, US companies found out that producing in China may be cheaper. Producing in Japan, in other countries, may be cheaper. So they move their capital to those countries. Yes, to those countries. The iPhone that we use is made in China.
In China, exactly.
Although not all the parts are made in China, but most of the parts and the assembly happens in China and then sent back to the United States. So this is, years.
So labor is cheap in China?
Yes, relatively. You have to be relatively to the US. So for these countries to be able to, within 4 years, remember Trump's term is 4 years, for these countries to able to move all their production back to the US structurally, it is very unlikely. I'll give you an example. In 2017, when Trump first started this trade issue, it was on China mainly because of the Chinese economic development and dominance. So when they started charging more higher tariffs on China, what China did is they shifted some of the production to Vietnam. So you were taxing goods because their country of origin is China. But now the companies from China has made what we call foreign direct investment in Vietnam. Now they produce from Vietnam and ship directly from Vietnam to US to diversify their supply chain. The other thing they did is they went to Mexico, which is close to the US, and the US has a free trade agreement with Mexico, Canada together. They moved some of their production plants, especially the EVs, that is BYD production plants, into Mexico. And then from Mexico, they export to the United States. So what happens is, within that period, exports from Mexico and Vietnam to US increase. Now, exports from China to the US decrease, but foreign direct investment from China to Vietnam and Mexico also increases. So what this tells you is that businessmen are very good in finding workaround. This is what we call diversification of supply chains and all this stuff.
And trade has a habit of ignoring what politicians say.
Yes, yes.
It has its own life, doesn't it? In many ways. How much trade do we do with the U.S.?
It's very, with regards to Gambia,
well,
it's very...
Well, that's the question. That's what I even wanted to ask.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
No, with Gambia, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
So with African countries, there is this what we call AGOA, that is the African Growth Opportunity Act that the U.S. has created specifically for African economies so that they can export their goods at a preferential tariff rate. But these are basically raw materials, and the dominant of this use of this is East Africa. So Gambia, naturally, we have a small export base. It's cashew and fisheries and all that. And this mainly goes to Europe and Asia, China and the European Union. So it's already known that our trade balance is highly negative. We have been in deficit for the longest because we are mainly import-driven economy and all that stuff. So it will have little impact. What its impact could have indirectly, it's through remittances. Now this is tricky because if the Trump tariffs are affected and then prices, because the consumer pays the tariff. So if Ibrahima imports a container of rice from Vietnam and he comes to Banjul port and the government says he must pay 37% tariff on that to clear it, Ibrahima pays it. And then Ibrahima goes back to his store and spread the cost across the bags of rice that he has imported. And then put a markup, his profit plus the cost plus the profit, and then sells it. So you and I go to the market to buy a bag of rice. We pay for it. So if US charges these high tariffs to other countries, Gambians that are consuming goods that are coming from other countries
are paying it.
So which means their cost of living is likely to go up. Now, if their cost of living goes up, then their income level goes down, which means their ability to remit money to the Gambia is going to be impacted. But when it comes to direct trade, because of the volumes that we do with the United States, is very, very insignificant. That is likely not to have any impact in terms of our export.
So, but what about the dollar? What about if there's a recession in the U.S.? Some people are saying that. I've read some economists that possibly this could lead to that. Then the whole world will all suffer in one way or another.
Yeah, actually, the stock markets,
Exactly.
have wiped almost, I think, $1 trillion, the value of stocks and business. Because what happens is, businesses have to operate in an environment with some level of certainty. And investors, there are two types of investors. Some are speculators and some are long-term investors that are looking for value. So what happens is that if this tariff could have impact on the dollar, because if the tariff translates into higher inflation, so the Federal Reserve will be forced to increase interest rates or to maintain where they are and not cut it. But then traders will believe that companies, okay, that are making dollar-denominated, profits, okay, are going to have a hit on this. Because if there's inflation, there's likely going to be a drop in consumption expenditure. So if things are high, people will start to pull back certain things on spending certain things, and this slow down the economy. Now that slowdown in spending can affect a company's profitability, because if you don't sell, if you were selling 1,000, now you are selling 2,000, your revenue goes down. Your revenue goes down, technically your profit goes down. So what will happen is then traders and investors begin to sell off dollar-denominated assets and stocks, and then divert to other currencies such as the euro and the pound. That's why with the European Union planning to spend over 800 billion over the next years in defense spending, we see a rise in defense stocks in the European Union, and also a strengthening euro for that matter. So it could affect the dollar around the world.
So bilateral trade relation, how is this going to affect it between the Gambia and the US?
Well, again, making the reference that, bilateral, usually what happens, I believe that, some of these tariffs are just a point to raise, leverage to get some countries to come to the table.
Absolutely negotiate,
yes.
Isn't it?
So
yes.
That's what I believe. So there's a baseline of 10% across all countries. That's where Gambia is captured. So this, if there was any bilateral trade agreement, obviously that has changed the status quo. So it is a point that calls partners. I think some countries have reached out to have conversations, to have negotiations on the table, to see what they can offer in return. Because I believe Trump is a businessman. He likes deals. That's what he likes, and he likes to create leverage for himself to have a conversation or to have a deal in a certain direction. And I think certain countries will approach him to see these tariffs are revised down, because countries like China are being hit by almost 67%. So 67% affects a lot of things. What this causes is that when you impose tariff, it could be why exporting countries are worried is because when you import, you are creating jobs offshore, abroad. So if there is a 67% tariffs on goods coming from China, it means Chinese goods are becoming expensive. So if there is an alternative, if I was consuming tea from China and now it's 67% higher, but now I can consume tea from Senegal, I will switch. But if there's no alternative to switch, that is substitute, then I will bear the cost when I purchase, or I will reduce my purchase. So this is where it is. So who does it affect more? It depends. Okay, it depends. It depends. For instance, in China, it's going to affect them too, because a huge of their trade is with the United States, although over the years they have tried to diversify from that. So the problem is where concentration is.
Isn't that the key, though? That's what Trump wants. Wants Americans to consume American manufactured goods.
Yes, but it's not that easy. It's a structural issue.
Thing, yeah.
So even for instance, if a car, okay, there are some parts that come from Canada, some parts are from Mexico, some parts are in South Korea, some parts are in Japan, some parts come from China. You have a global supply chain to assemble one unit of a car, right? So if you want all these manufacturers to shift production into the US, it's almost impossible. If I were an investor, I'm like, okay, how long does Trump has to stay? It's 4 years.
It's 4 years. Yeah.
Can I diversify my export into other countries, find new buyers, engage new, engage new countries, and wait for the 4 years to lapse out, and then somebody will come, they might change policy. So I think for me, that would sound better than wanting to shift a whole manufacturing, line into the United States. It's a huge commitment in terms of investment.
Exactly. So foreign direct investment, how is it going to affect as far as these tariffs are concerned?
Well, the idea is, like Mr. Mboj said, is to have farms, because when you listen to him, he says, if you don't produce in America, excuse me, if you don't produce in America, then you face high tariffs. If you produce in America, they will reduce corporate income tax for you. So we have seen companies like Apple and SoftBank coming up with over billions of dollars commitment to invest in the United States and build plants. Over the years, we have had TSMC, that is the Taiwan, semiconductor manufacturing company that manufactures chips, that is used in electronics and other electrical devices, have made investment promises in the U.S. all in the drive to appease, the policymakers in the United States. But again, the reality is the ability for this, the successfulness of this, the likelihood for this to succeed, and for this to happen within 4 years, it's a very small window, and countries may want to invest in the U.S., but if there is a political uncertain environment, Trump can wake up today and bring up a new, policy that is not expected. It is destabilizing for the business environment. You understand? So where it is possible to shift manufacturing, you will see direct investment in the United States. But on the other hand, which I really favor, is countries will instead diversify. Countries will diversify. Countries will engage in talks with the United States to see what else immediately that they can release, instead of having to restructure that entire supply.
Thank you, Malik. Thank you.
Are we done?
We've exhausted the time already.
Because I wanted to know what's the best strategy, to retaliate or to negotiate?
Well, depending on the trade relations you have with the United States, I think always the strategy is to negotiate. Yes,
absolutely.
Exactly. Thank you, Malik Jallo, for talking to us on QTV this morning, and we hope to engage you more, because these tariffs will get more interesting.
No problem. I'm always available for you guys.
Mr. Mboj, thank you.
Sure.
Well, viewers, this is all we have for you. Enjoy the rest of our programs until we come your way again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.